Around the world, improving bilateral and trade relationships between countries is a key part of globalization as it helps to create wealth by building local economies. One of Nigeria's strategic partners is the Netherlands. Although relatively small in landmass and population, the Netherlands is a powerhouse in seed production, horticulture, and expertise. This seemingly small country is the biggest exporter of seeds in the world, exporting about 1.5 billion euros worth annually, and also the third largest exporter of food products. It is also Nigeria's biggest trade partner in Europe. Trade volume is put at around 20% of total trade between Nigeria and the European Union. In this interview, MICHEL, Deputy Ambassador of the Netherlands to Nigeria, tells us how the country was able to achieve such outstanding and admirable feats in agriculture and food production, while also speaking on how Nigeria can better leverage on her potential. He also emphasizes the need to build synergies and improve trade relationship between both countries.
We also started from basically low production levels, and farming in the Netherlands hasn't always been as intensive as it is now. After the Second World War, we had to rebuild the country, and also the agricultural production was rebuilt. And between the farmers, the organized farmers, the government and the research institutes, we managed to increase production in agricultural products, basically in meat and also in other products, so that we have become now one of the biggest exporters in the world of agricultural products. But we also realized that there is a limit to how far you can go, because taking into account animal welfare, taking into account the use of the land, at a certain moment you can also overproduce. So what we've learned from that is that at a certain level you have produced enough. But that knowledge that we gained is something that we want to share with other countries. I'm not saying you can copy it one-on-one. Of course, we have a different situation, different climate, but our research institutes and our companies have also developed special knowledge and special varieties for tropical countries like Nigeria. We've also learned a lot on how to increase production per hectare, for example, for tomatoes. Tomato is a product that grows widely in Nigeria. I mean, tomatoes are an essential ingredient, basically, of many Nigerian dishes. But if you look at how it's grown, then the production of tomatoes per hectare, or actually what ends up in the market per hectare, because a lot of it gets lost during transport or squeezed or whatever, there's a lot of improvement that can be done there. And for those type of things, we do have the technology and the know-how in the Netherlands too. Nigeria exports ginger, Nigeria exports sesame seeds, Nigeria exports cashew nuts. These are all products whereby Nigeria actually has an important role to play. I'm not even talking about cocoa. That's also, of course, a good agricultural export commodity that Nigeria produces. We also assist Nigeria in that field to the extent that we work together with the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. And we have also invited them to the Netherlands, and they came with a trade delegation in March of this year to also look for Dutch buyers of these specific Nigerian products. It's not a matter of copying it, but it's a matter of us sharing our experience with Nigeria. And a simple example is inputs, seeds. So there are a number of seed companies in the Netherlands who have also developed varieties of tomatoes, for example, but potatoes similarly, that are very suitable for the Nigerian climate. And if you use those type of seeds in Nigeria, your production will already increase. And these are things whereby we assist companies to come to Nigeria, to work with Nigerian farmers, to explain, basically, to have demonstration plots, to show people that it can actually work like that. And then to see if business can also be done, because we are looking at agriculture from a business perspective. So seeds is one of these things, good agricultural practices, bringing in new varieties, also assisting in logistics, because as I said, lots of products when they leave the field, before they reach the market, lots of it is already spoiled, unfortunately. So in assisting and advising how that can be done in a logistic way, that would also be one of the things that we're involved in. We will expand the projects that we are having now, so basically to scale, and also further projects in horticulture, further projects probably also in the potato sector, where we are working in Plateau State now. And we might also start something specifically in Kaduna State. So it's basically to intensify what we're doing, to expand it. The first thing that we did was to set up a program called To Scale. It's a program whereby we assist small-scale farmers in Nigeria to bring them and their products to the market. So what we've done is we've linked up, for example, cassava farmers with Nigerian breweries, because Nigerian breweries also uses cassava as part of their ingredients. We've linked up Fulani herdsmen in the milk production with WAMCO. We're also assisting different farmers in Kaduna State to basically make sure that what they produce is also ready for the market, for off-takers, and that the quality is good enough. And we focus thereby a lot on small-scale farmers, and we do that with technical assistance. That was how we started. Then in 2015, there was a delegation of the Nigerian Agribusiness Group that visited the Netherlands that we had invited. A Dutch delegation then visited Nigeria, and we signed a memorandum of understanding between the Dutch agric private sector and the Nigerian Agribusiness Group. And that's also on exchange of information, on investments, on trainings, and capacity building. And the last big thing that happened was President Buhari visited the Netherlands in May. And that was really to highlight our good bilateral relations, but also a memorandum of understanding was signed between the Dutch government and the Nigerian government to further cooperate in many fields, but agriculture is one of the crucial fields of that. The Minister of Agriculture was also present, and they visited different greenhouses also in the Netherlands. The Nigerian Minister of Agriculture is very, very much aware of what we have to offer, of our technology, both in horticulture and in livestock. So that was the next step, basically. And now we will see that how this results in basically the implementation of a new program that we will roll out in Nigeria to assist the horticulture sector. But to give you one example of impact, the production of milk in Oyo State, where we are assisting a group of basically settled Fulanis, has really also changed part of the social structure of that group, because it has enabled the women in that community to have their own income. The income before came from the beef of the cattle, and the milk was just used as a byproduct. Now milk production has increased quite considerable in that community, and the milk is being managed by the women in the community, and their income has raised. So it has given also a social development in that part that was maybe a little bit unexpected when we started it. I think we can only improve on the way agriculture is done now. I travel quite a lot around Nigeria, and there's very few mechanized agriculture. And if you really want to increase your production, you must mechanize your agriculture. Because we also have to look at why is agriculture there? I mean, we are in need of agriculture to feed the cities, to feed the people who live in the cities who do not have a farm of their own. Now, if you look at a city like Lagos, which is growing and growing and growing, that means there's more and more food needed. And that food cannot just be produced in the old-fashioned way. So you need to mechanize the agriculture. You need to do better soil testing so that you know exactly which type of fertilizer you have to use, if you have to use fertilizer at all, or maybe organic manure, or a combination of both. But you need to look at agriculture from a little bit more scientific way and from a business way. You invest into it. You invest in tractors, you invest in equipment, you invest in people, in training, and then that will increase your yields. As I said, we believe agriculture is a private sector activity, but if you talk about inputs, or talk about seeds, the Nigerian government has to also allow these seeds to come in. So the market has been liberalized. That means international companies can sell their products in Nigeria, in the seed sector, for example. But there's always customs and delays in the port and practical things that you need to take into account. So our contacts with Ministry of Agriculture are a lot on, allowing new technologies, new products to enter Nigeria to assist in the increase of yields in Nigeria. I think government has the most important role to play in the field of policy and the implementation of that policy. So policy, for example, to allow agricultural inputs into the country. And that could be seeds, but that could also be, let's say, construction material for irrigation, for building greenhouses, everything you need to set up a farm should actually be allowed into the country easily. Government, of course, is also responsible for part of the roads infrastructure. And we're facing a major problem. Let's be very honest about it. The situation in Lagos here, in Apapa, Tinkan Island, the roads to the port are an outrage disaster. And me as an outsider, I still sort of fail to understand why it takes so long to fix those roads. I've been to the port several times. I know that road was very much a disaster. It almost disappeared. But why it takes more than a year to fix that, while in the meantime the exports are suffering and the imports are suffering, and that is something that government has the capacity, and also it's their job to solve things like that. So if you're a farmer and you want to export, you cannot even use the port. And if you are relying on imports for seeds or for whatever, and you have to wait 4 months for something to arrive to your farm, it doesn't work like that. So government has an important role to play in facilitating these transport flows and making sure that the right infrastructure is there.